Hi, boys and girls. Yesterday, you learned how to represent data using a picture graph. Today, we're going to represent data by making a bar graph with a scale. Think about this. Jonathan has 30 paper cutouts of different shapes. There are twice as many squares as rectangles. The bar graph shows the number of each shape he has. The bars for the squares and triangles are missing. What are the possible numbers of squares and triangles? Make a list. Boys and girls, this is the bar graph representing some of the data. We know that Jonathan has 30 paper cutouts in all. We can see circles and rectangles, and the bar for square and triangle is missing. This bar graph has a scale. All bar graphs have scales. It starts at 0. A scale on a bar graph always starts at 0. This scale is counting by twos. 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Here's what we know. We can figure out how many circles Jonathan has by looking at the bar. The bar for circle is halfway between the 2 and the 4, and the number in between 2 and 4 is 3. So he has 3 circle cutouts. The bar for rectangle is even with the 4 on the scale, and so we know that Jonathan has 4 rectangle cutouts. We don't know how many squares and triangles he has, but we do know that the bar for squares is twice the bar for rectangles, and twice means 2 times a number. That's my hint. After we learn more about making bar graphs with scales, we'll revisit this question. You can make bar graphs from the data on a picture graph. 4 friends went for a nature walk. The picture graph shows the number of butterflies each friend saw. Here's the picture graph. Make a noticing. All picture graphs have to have a title. The title of this one is Number of Butterflies Seen. All picture graphs have pictures that represent the data. This picture graph has pictures of butterflies. Juan, Kylie, Irene, and Caleb are the 4 friends that went for a nature walk. The key is really important to pay attention to in a picture graph. The key helps us understand the data, and this key tells us that each picture of a butterfly stands for 1 butterfly. So we can see that Juan saw 4 butterflies on the nature walk, Kylie saw 10, Irene saw 8, and Caleb saw 6. You can use the information on a picture graph to make a bar graph. Mariana uses that same data to make a vertical bar graph. A scale will show the value of the bars, and on this graph, the vertical axis, this here, or grid line, is marked 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. You'll also notice, just like a picture graph, this bar graph has a title, Number of Butterflies Seen, and it has labels on each side. The sides of a bar graph, boys and girls, are called the axes. This is an axis. This is an axis. So there's a label for the scale telling us what these numbers represent, and the numbers represent the number of butterflies seen. On the bottom, the label shows us that those are the names of the 4 friends. Juan, Kylie, Irene, and Caleb. You can say this data matches the data on the picture graph. I want you to make another noticing, though. On a bar graph, the bars never touch each other. There's always a space in between. That's important. The other thing I want you to notice is there are no bars that directly touch the scale. You're going to skip a column for your first bar and skip 1 column in between each. I'll also have you notice that the bars are completely colored in. Like a picture graph, a bar graph is also useful for comparing data. Now, I want to talk to you about this word vertical because bar graphs can be vertical or horizontal. Vertical lines, boys and girls, are these lines here that go up and down. These are vertical lines. So a bar graph that's vertical has bars that go up and down from the bottom to the top. This is a horizontal bar graph. It's the same data, but the bars are side to side. These are horizontal lines, or horizontal bars. Just like the vertical bar graph, you'll notice it has a title, number of butterflies seen. All bar graphs need a title. And it has labels on both sides. In this case, the scale's on the bottom, again counting by twos. And a label representing what that scale means. It's the number of butterflies. And a label over here that tells us that these are the names of the friends. Make a noticing here too. There is a space, one column, between the scale and the start of the first bar, and one column in between each. On a bar graph, boys and girls, the bars can't touch. So, there you have it. This is how you make a bar graph with a scale. So, let's go back to the question we started with. Jonathan has 30 paper cutouts of different shapes. There are twice as many squares as rectangles. Here's the bar graph. It shows the number of each shape he has: circles, rectangles, squares, and triangles. The bars for the squares and triangles are missing, though. What are the possible numbers of squares and triangles? This time, besides making a list, I'd like you to complete the bar graph, remembering that you'll need a title, you'll need a label for what the scale numbers represent, and you'll need a label over here too. You'll also need to solve for how many squares and triangles he has. And my hint to you, since we know he has 3 circles and we know he has 4 rectangles, that he has twice this number of squares. And once you figure that out, knowing he has 30 altogether should help you solve for how many triangles he has. I'd like you to use a piece of grid paper to show your work. And so make sure you download and print out a piece of grid paper and send me a picture when you've solved it. See you tomorrow.